Today I'm going to teach you step by step how to make this super cute pine farmhouse Christmas wreath. Welcome to Stillwater's Wreath Designs. Come on in. Hello, Stillwater's friends. Come on in. How are you today? We're going to be building our wreath today on a 24-inch pine wreath base. And today's wreath is a little bit versatile. It would be great for, of course, the Christmas holiday, but it's also just a really pretty winter wreath. So you would be able to keep this up well past the Christmas holiday. You guys, this is just a 24-inch round pine base. I grabbed this at Hobby Lobby. Let me show you the back. It's actually got two levels. What would be the lower and the upper, and it is chock full with pine ties. So we're going to fluff this guy out. When you get a wreath base from the store, guys, or online, they're always a little worse for the wear. So go ahead and plug in your hot glue gun so it can be heating up while we fluff this guy out. I'm just making sure that all of these pine ties are separated and not bunched up. And we've got an equal number, basically, not looking for perfection, of pine ties on both the inner area, the outer area, and the upper area. So it's just a nice, well-rounded wreath base. While we fluff this guy out, let me just take a quick minute to welcome anyone new here to the Stillwater's channel. We are all about DIY wreath tutorials, and we've got new tutorials uploading every single week. So if you like that sort of thing, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button and join us. And for my friends who have been here on the channel for a while, I so appreciate you. Welcome back. Let me just speed ahead real quickly here while I finish fluffing out our wreath base. All right, I've got my pine base totally fluffed out, and I've woken up all those branches, and now it's time to start creating. Hopefully you've had your hot glue gun plugged in. So the first thing we're going to do, guys, is build out our base a little bit here. I'm just going to add in some additional different types of texture. These are just pine picks. These actually came from Hobby Lobby. If you are new to wreath making, guys, you'll soon discover that florals are always going to be, or nearly always, the most expensive part of wreath making. And Hobby Lobby right now has all their Christmas items on sale for 50% off. Seems like it's been that way nearly every week for the past several weeks. So hopefully that continues. But in general, Hobby Lobby has all of their florals on sale for 40% off every other week. So keep that in mind when you are shopping for materials. Speaking of materials, you guys, I will leave a full materials list for you below in the description of this video, so that if you want to recreate this beauty, you sure can do so. And if you'd rather just purchase today's wreath that we're making in this tutorial, I'll leave a link for that as well. So let me show you what this first layer of Pine Edition is. I'm just going to hold that next to my hand. It's almost like a really soft rubber. I'm going to guess it will be great in the elements, which is nice for the winter months. So I'm just going to kind of fluff that a little bit. And nearly always, florals are going to be on a wire base, guys. What that means is you can shape it to go with the flow of where you intend to add it in. And you can also trim those ends to the proper length. This is a little bit long for my liking, so I'm going to give that, a 2-inch haircut or so. And before I actually glue my embellishments and pieces down, guys, I like to dry place them first, just to make sure I'm happy with that placement. So this particular wreath, as you saw from the picture at the beginning of this tutorial, is a simple, elegant winter wreath that I have envisioned. And so I really want to have an elegant but simple backdrop to our wreath to be complimentary of our design. I've got 3 of these guys here, and so I'm just going to dry place them in. Approximately 1/3 of the way around for each layer, like so. I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to do I'm going to take this pine tie and just twist it around this stem here. Hopefully the camera's capturing that. And then I'm going to run a bead of glue. Normally I will pull out my branches and then add that glue, but in this case, I'm going to make sure that that doesn't drip anywhere and it stays nice and hidden. And then I'm just going to interweave, kind of poke through some of those pine ties so that this piece doesn't, look like it's laying on top of our wreath base, but that it's really married together nicely and interwoven. There we go. Super cute. See how that just gives it a little bit more depth and fullness? Let's do that for our other two. All right, now that we've got those first 3 layers in, they're kind of in a triangle form and we've blended them nicely. Let's go ahead and add in some winter fern picks. These actually came in a giant box. Gosh, there was probably 100 or so from Amazon. They're just a really light and airy, thin floral piece. And of course, we're going to have to trim down our stems. So I'm going to cut off a good 2 inches or so. I'm going to leave just a 2-inch stem, and I'm going to cut, let's start out with 4 or 5 and we'll see how far we get with those. So again, I'm just going to trim down those wire bits on our stem so that we have a more manageable length, and then I'm going to dry place them in. And again, they are on that wire stem, guys, so you can really curve it, you can elevate it. You've got a lot of opportunity to give it some whimsy. And so what I'm going to do, let me just show you here, it's kind of like a Z pattern because I want that to run parallel to our wire frame within our wreath base, but then I want it to lay a little bit elevated and following the flow of our wreath. So if I make that zigzag pattern, that's going to give us that pretty flow. Almost looks like a lightning bolt or a Z. And there's about, a 3-inch gap between one end and the other. Those are super cute, guys. So I've added, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on that upper layer. I'm going to follow that same pattern on our outer layer right around the edge here, all the way around. And so wherever there's a gap on the upper layer, that's where I'm going to add the lower layer. So it's a little bit staggered. So I want the body, the middle part of that stem, to be laying in the middle there, right between those two on the upper layer. That'll just really give it some great flow and a lot of movement to our wreath. So just look at all that extra texture now that we have flowing through our wreath. So we've got those 2 layers. They're just laying really nicely within our pine base. I'm really happy with that placement, guys. And so now I'm going to go back through and glue them down in. And to glue them in, guys, I'm literally just going to pick up my stem. I'm going to run about 1.5 inch bead of glue right on that stem and tuck that guy back in. We've got pine branches galore in this beauty, so there's lots of places for your pieces to anchor down into. So just add your beads of glue and get those guys nestled back in, and I'll meet you back here. You guys, how stinking cute is this base? Now that we've got some additional layers of winter greenery built into our pine base, just look at all the extra depth and dimension our base has. Beautiful, beautiful. So at this point, you don't really have a top or bottom to your wreath, but we're soon going to be changing that. So just give yourself a moment to take a peek at your wreath base and determine what you want to be the bottom versus the top. It doesn't really matter so much at this point, but if you've got a preference, now's the time to choose. And so our centerpiece, or our focal point, guys, is going to be this super cute, I don't know if it's a village, if it's meant to be a village house or a church steeple. I think it's just a village piece because I don't really see that steeple piece, but could go either way, I suppose. And so what we're going to do is scoot that base off to the side, and we're going to flip our house over. I always like to make sure when I buy these, guys, that the attachments are nice and firm. What I don't want them to do is fall off on my or my customer's door. This piece actually has a light, so we're going to pull that out so our customer can light that up. How stinking cute is that? I'm going to grab a couple of 20 gauge floral wire stems that are 16 inches in length. And I'm going to grab my craft stapler. We'll use these floral wire stems to anchor this guy down into our wreath base. Let me tell you about this stapler, guys. If you're new to wreath making, you'll definitely want to have a craft stapler on hand and part of your wreath maker's toolbox. It's basically more heavy duty than a desktop stapler, but not near as robust as a garage stapler. And they're great for stapling down floral wire stems, chenille stems, or zip ties to anchor down your embellishments. I'm going to actually staple my first piece. Let me just kind of fold that into a V to identify the center right there towards this peak. And then I'm just going to give it a loose twist or two just to keep that from sliding off, and a little dollop of glue for some extra security. And then I'm going to add my second piece towards the bottom here. And I'm actually going to staple it right here on the side because I want my customer to be able to get to this battery piece if they need to change out batteries. I had to run that staple at an angle because that staple was wider than my base. And again, just a little bit of glue, just so that staple doesn't go anywhere. And we'll give it about 5 minutes to dry, and then I'll meet you back here. Now that our glue is dry, we can go ahead and anchor this piece down into our wreath. We're going to place this in the middle, but off to the side just a little bit. And so to do that, guys, you're just going to run this floral wire, fold it into a little bit of a wide V, run that right down into your wreath base. Hold on to that guy and flip it over. And you want to make sure that those pine ties wrap around both layers of that frame. I'm going to give it just a couple of twists. I want to make sure it's still in place before we really anchor that guy down. I do like the placement of that on the lower level. So now we'll repeat that same step at the upper level. Just run those floral wire stems right through your base. And then hold on to your village piece and then flip that guy over. Again, make sure those wire ties, those floral wire stem guys, are around both rings of your pine base, and give it a couple, 2 or 3 twists. We're going to flip it over just to make sure we're happy with that placement, and I am. Want to make sure I can still get to that battery pack. Yep, we're good to go, and it looks great. Going to get some of these pine ties that got tucked away here back into place. All right, since we're happy with that placement, let's flip this guy over and give that a final anchoring. So I'm just going to twist those wire ties another 2 or 3 times at about 80% tension. And then I'm going to trim off the excess bits of our floral wire stem. And then we'll take our needle nose pliers and just curl those ends back into our wreath so that it doesn't scratch our door nor poke us or our customer. We're going to come up here to this top piece and do the exact same thing. But because our customer at some point is going to need to take the village piece off to change batteries, I don't want to glue this down because they're going to need to be able to take that off to do so. All right, now that we've got that anchored down, let's flip our piece back over. How stinking cute is that, you guys? Oh my goodness. So I'm just gonna wake back up some of our pines here that we've squished while we were working on adding in our village piece. How stinking cute. All right, it's on to the next step. So the next thing we're going to add in are these super cute white frosted picks. They almost, to me, look like a winter tree that's covered in snow. And so I thought that would be a cute addition right beside our village piece. I have two, although I don't know that we're going to need them both. We may. These two were from Hobby Lobby. And of course, they're on a wire stem, so I'm just going to fluff them up a little bit. They are frosted, guys, so they're gonna shed like frosted things do. Super cute. So you can actually, if you can see, I've actually pulled those forward and then back up just to kind of give it a tree-like appearance. So we're just fluffing our branches here. So I'm just gonna run a good 2 inches bead of glue and press that guy down into our pine ties. And I think at the top here, I'm just going to run a little bit of glue on the back, not very much because that will dry and be visible. And then take my scissors and kind of poke that down into that pine, just so it stays anchored up there. How stinking cute. Then we're going to do the exact same thing with our second piece. So I'm going to place that about 2 inches apart from that first piece and forward about 1 inch, just so it really looks like winter trees. And again, guys, I just ran some glue right down that stem and placed it down into our base. I think I'm going to add just a little bit of glue underneath that stem at the second touching point, just to give it some extra stability so we can continue to build our wreath. Guys, we just don't want to touch or disturb those, but how stinking cute is that? This is going to be such a pretty winter piece. Let's move on to the next layer. These are actually some mini lamb's ear bushes from Hobby Lobby. We're going to trim these guys down and sprinkle them throughout our wreath. I've grabbed 2, although I'm not sure if we'll need 1 or 2. So this is what our mini bush looks like. It's almost like thistle. And we're just going to take our snips and trim off our pieces. Looks like there's about 4 to 6 or so. And once you individually trim them, this is what they look like. Just a nice, pretty frosted green that I think is going to add some additional texture to our wreath. So let's see what we can do here. I'm just going to trim all of these guys off of this first bush and dry place them. We'll see if we need to trim that other bush or not. And then, of course, we'll commit to gluing. All right, guys, I ended up using 1 full bush and then 2 pieces from a second bush. I'm happy with that placement. I'm going to go ahead and glue them in. We'll follow that same process as before. Pull out your pieces one by one. Give them 1 inch to 1.5 inches bead of glue right there on that spine. and place them back into your wreath. Go ahead and get those pieces anchored down, and I'll meet you back here. How cute is this coming together, guys? I've got my thistle lamb's ear pieces anchored down in, and it's on to the next step. So our last piece, guys, I have this mini bush of red pip berries. I thought that would just really pull out the red in the berries on our village piece and just give it a little bit of a pop of color. We're going to use this entire bush. It too is from Hobby Lobby. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off every single branch here on this pipberry bush. And then I'm going to dry place them around our wreath. And then we'll glue them down in. So I've trimmed down our bush. It probably gave us 8 pieces or so. And because they're on a wire spine, they will curl. So I'm going to just run a bead of glue about 1 inch down and then anchor that guy in. When you're running florals or greenery or pip berries, anything of the sort, guys, you always want them to go in the same direction. So you probably noticed I typically go clockwise, but you want them to flow in the same direction. We're just going to take a couple of minutes and get these guys anchored down in. I'm placing them about a hand's length apart from one another. I've actually been wrapping these right around my finger, guys, then leaving about 1 inch or so of straight stem for my glue. And it is working out well. I did not end up trimming any of them in half. Here's what the piece looks like once I wrap that around my finger. So it's got a couple, 2 or 3 curls, and then a straight piece for anchoring. And I've used exactly all 8 pieces of the pip berries. So see, they're not really a statement piece, but they just give little peaks of red color all throughout our wreath, which makes the berries, our village piece, stand out. How stinking cute. I've got 1 piece left. I'm going to add this guy right down in here. Just a little peek. And that is it, guys. I hope you enjoyed creating this with me today. What a pretty Christmas wintry piece. Lots of depth and dimension with our greenery textures. And I love that our little village piece lights up. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps my little channel to grow. Thanks for spending time with me today, friends. Happy crafting.